Georgia O'Keeffe was an American artist born on November 15th in 1887 in Wisconsin. She grew up on a farm which filled her with a passion for nature and knew she wanted to be an artist from a young age. As she grew older and attended art school in Chicago, which her mother strongly encouraged her to do, she found herself becoming frustrated with the teachings there, as she was taught to draw from realists in the same way as European masters at the time, which she couldn't connect with. She felt as if there was much more to art and its possibilities, which was when she first discovered abstract art. She started practicing and experimenting this on her own and found it to be a lot less constricting. It seemed like the easiest way to communicate to her. As she said, "I found I could say things with colour and shapes that I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for." Georgia O'Keeffe's first art exhibition was actually partially against her wishes, as her friend took some of her abstract charcoal drawings and sent them to a photographer at the time named Alfred Stieglitz, who put them in his own art gallery on display in New York, which began her popularity. O'Keeffe was initially very angry at this, and as women at the time were not respected for their art and were not deemed as successful artists, but this began to get her recognition. These are some of the charcoal drawings I did inspired by her early charcoal drawings from my sketchbook. After this, she fell in love with Stieglitz and they both moved to New York, where she became inspired by the cityscapes instead of the countryside and began abstract work as a product of this. At this time in her life, however, she also began painting large-scale flower studies and zooming in to certain parts of flowers to evolve them into abstract pieces, which are now some of her most famous work. Again, I took a image of a flower and zoomed in response to Georgia O'Keeffe, and this is a quick charcoal sketch I did in my sketchbook from that. Unlike the harsh lines included in early Cubism, O'Keeffe instead depicted the steady flowing lines of nature which she felt expressed her feelings best. This method of practice led up to the movement of American modernism, which in general challenges realist traditional art, which was incredibly popular at the time. It instead included the use of geometric shapes and brighter colours, things that are never painted exactly as they appear to the eye and are expressed instead in more of a feeling. During the 1920s, this was a radical approach that moved towards revitalising the way that modern civilization viewed life, art and politics. An artist who explored the natural world through American modernism also was Arthur G. Dove. O'Keeffe actually collected his work and said that Dove had an earthy, simple quality that led directly to abstraction. His things were very special. I always wish I'd brought more of them. O'Keeffe enjoyed painting from nature the most and travelled parts of America while she wasn't teaching. She would often stay away from her work as a teacher to paint for up to 4 months at a time. She liked to inspect objects to find the more intricate details which would usually go unnoticed otherwise. Her subjects eventually also included skulls which she would find in the desert, which she would add her own perspective on, like a ram's head with horns depicted on here. Her floral pieces captivated the public, and critics at the time linked them to female genitalia. O'Keeffe dismissed this, frustrated with how dominated the art world was with the male gaze at the time. She wanted her work to be viewed as an emotional expression of nature, and purely that. But to this day, people still make the same connection to her work as the male critics did then, and her work is famously still mistaken to depict vaginas. In her later life, she moved to New Mexico and started to lose her eyesight. However, she still continued creating in any way she could up until her death at the age of 98. Her work is still widely admired today, and she is remembered as the mother of American modernism.